Hello.
That always goes on just a little bit longer than I'm expecting. Like even though there's a countdown, I'm like, nope, the musical should change here. But it doesn't.
Anyway, we're here to discuss the earnings. We had some questions earlier today when we did our preview about what how things would be, and I think they sort of overshot.
I
At
mean,
least-
you had the probably the best guess. You talked about how we probably get something for Obi-Wan during the big game, and we got the date uh, today. So that makes me think that you're even more right for Sunday.
yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, about the trailer. It's interesting though because basically they're choosing to use Star Wars Celebration as the liftoff of that show instead of Star Wars Day.
Well, it's also isn't 525 the anniversary of the first movie?
Oh yeah, oh, good point. In any case,
Yeah, I think a lot of people were betting on the fourth, especially because I think if you do the math, that the same it'll be the week after Moon Knight ends.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, I think obviously a lot goes into this. Christy McCarthy even mentioned it. Is like sometimes productions have to shut down or get delayed for reasons other than COVID, um, which is definitely true. Um, anyway, a couple things that I just wanted to call out. So first of all, sort of as Bob's talking, he seems really invested in this 100 years thing. Like he's all about that. They're leading Disney to next 100th anniversary, which makes sense. You kind of tease Destination D is sort of like the kickoff of the tease of that, and the 100th anniversary celebration really kick off at the expo. Seems to be sort of his way of, I think.
It's going to be his Disney decade.
Right, exactly. It's like his, that's when, COVID should be done. It'll be his chance to kind of come out and have the Disney as he envisioned it. Talked about his three strategic priorities, which we've covered before, but, storytelling excellence, innovation, technology, and focus on the consumer, which is not all that different than Bob Iger's, which was creativity, technology, and international expansion. But that's what they are. I mean, and it's not necessarily that he's copying, but it's Disney's job to make good products and tell good stories and give people what they want. It's every business. Every business is focused on the consumer. That's the whole point.
Should we go over some of the key numbers, the interesting ones?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, they beat the street in obviously that number is not in the earnings announcement, but I have it here. So the street was expecting 63 cents a share, and they brought in $1.06. So not just like it wasn't like beat it by 6 cents. It was a huge expectation. The analysts were expecting an addition of 8 million subscribers for Disney Plus, which were brought to 125 million. And I just want to make sure I get the right number.
I think it's 11.8 added, so it's like 129.8 total for just Disney Plus, and they're at like 196 if you add in Disney or ESPN Plus and Hulu.
Right. So big gains there. Sort of below the line is the fact that all the Hulu plus live TV subscribers essentially got Disney Plus and ESPN Plus subscriptions added in. I don't know. They mentioned the number. I didn't catch it, but there's only 4 million of those subscribers. Plus, presumably, some of them already had ESPN Plus and Disney Plus or the bundle to begin with. So it did impact it, but it's not going to be super material because it's not a small universe you're dealing with.
It's not Hotstar.
Right. So
I also just saw, as far as on that note, 42.9 are in US and Canada for Disney Plus.
Well, and it's what's impressive to me is that they're still seeing growth in those territories, which were the first, and they talked about how, I think I had this perception. I was like, okay, you're a Disney, Marvel, Star Wars fan, you already have the service, but in their research, no, there's some that are still kind of iffy about it, or haven't bought into it. I don't
or pop in and pop out, maybe.
Yeah, and they did do that Disney Plus Day promo.
And a Black Friday one she mentioned as well.
Yeah, and they are seeing engagement with those viewers, so they think that those guests will stay on. But once again, not comparing apples to apples. But then even if you look at the ARPU, which is the average revenue per user, So obviously if it's free, everyone would subscribe, right? So you gotta look at how much they're actually making on it. The Disney Plus ARPU, even considering the sort of promo, it was still up 18%. And internationally, excluding Disney Plus Hotstar, it was up 40%. So,
of course, they exclude Hotstar.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hotstar,
it's very, very in American dollars, costs way less.
Right. So. Well, and Disney Plus Hotstar is still it. So Disney Plus Hotstar went up from 98 cents average revenue per user to $1.03, whereas Disney Plus is about $6.70, give or take. ESPN Plus about $5.16. So, hi Charles, good to see you. Thanks for joining from Brooklyn. So the Disney Plus numbers obviously did very well. That's sort of where the media business has been. Talked a little bit about theatrical. One thing that I think was a little nuanced is they used to say, like, oh, we believe in theatrical because that's where you can build a franchise. But obviously Encanto has kind of thrown that out of the water. Encanto merchandise sales are actually up after Christmas because it debuted on Disney Plus on Christmas Eve. And then, people wanted the products after they saw it, which probably will impact how they release things moving forward to try and get those Encantos type things on Disney Plus, before the holiday season kicks into gear.
Yeah, and we also talked a little bit this morning about how because Netflix had that big miss, this was kind of the opposite when those Disney Plus numbers and the overall revenue. I got an alert; it was up. Stock was up 10%. I don't know where it's sitting at right now, but it was as high as like 160 when I saw where it closed at 145 or something.
Yeah, it looks like right now it's at 158, so it's up about 8%, 12 points or so.
Parks.
Yeah, Parks. Sorry, just getting a note from our friends here at Lucasfilm. Okay, so they are the Star Wars. I mean, and it probably is in the press release. I didn't have a chance to read, but the Obi-Wan series is to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Star Wars: A New Hope. Parks. I mean, they beat domestically. Let's talk. Had the best performing revenue and income in their history. So I'm not talking about since COVID ever. Now, that doesn't mean the number of guests is up. It just means that they're spending more. So you're going to hear this term like favorable guest mix. That doesn't mean that they value one guest more than another guest. It just means some guests, when they visit, they get more revenue than other guests. And so you get,
Well, and specifically, like it usually means like annual pass holders, whereas right. If someone is buying a ticket for that day, that's better than someone who already prepaid and is now visiting, and every time they visit, then the amount that they paid for that annual pass is getting smaller and smaller.
Right. So even though one guest may come and through a magic key, still may spend more in the course of a year through merchandise, food, and all that, which they value. It's not the same as a guest who's coming for 3 days, spends more on their ticket per day, and also tends to buy more merchandise and lives it up a little bit more in that little 3-day window, as opposed to a magic key holder, annual pass holder would spread it out over the whole year. So I think that's amazing. One thing that I think is there's a lot of negativity out there, and one thing that I think is actually a reason to be a little not concerned, but I would say we want to keep an eye on this is revenue and income up greater than 100%, triple basically, right? But that being said, the investment that they put into capital expenditures, which is basically new things, refurbishment, creating new assets that they expect will drive, be part of what they own. So is that new attractions or, redoing a restaurant and making it nicer, making it last longer, other things like that, is not up significantly. It's up about 25%, but compared to the revenue income. So what you don't want to happen is okay, this is our new sort of income level. This is what we expect. Here's our revenue, and here's the return on that revenue. So we're gonna need to keep our investment at this level so that we don't impact the margins of the revenue. And I'm using sort of financial terms, but they went through this. Now, granted, this is still many, quadruple what they did at sort of the height of the Eisner era, but still, we want to make sure that they went through this phase of, Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus, other things. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that, particularly in Florida, where Epic Universe is coming. And, are they going to invest in their existing parks, not necessarily to, try and take share away, but just to preserve their share by having, the theme parks are a business where new people, new experiences drives guests to go to those parks. And, you're going to need to build up. And obviously Epcot has the huge transformation project, but, we don't know of anything major happening at Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios. Magic Kingdom has some work being done over at Splash Mountain, obviously, but, even Disneyland, Runaway Railway, presumably a next phase of Avengers Campus, but there's no shovels in the ground yet. So when will that investment return? In similar ways that, they talked about their current capacity limitations. They talked about how they haven't brought back all their live entertainment because that's sort of a dense experience. Like obviously Fantasmic, you're racked in there, and a show, you're shoulder to shoulder with people, and they're concerned about sort of how making guests feel uncomfortable. I think, as we get longer into this, as cases come down, as we get more used to it, I think that will wane too. But that's, what's limiting their how many guests they can bring in, as well as having a hard time staffing their food and beverage locations, having cooks, making food. So, people got to eat. You can't have a limited offerings there because, you can't have them in there and having crazy lines for that. It just becomes a bad experience.
Unless it's a popcorn bucket, then it's okay.
Well, that's the guest's fault.
The other big number to come out of the park side was that currently 50% of guests, approximately 50% of guests, are upgrading to Genie Plus. Now, partially that's up from the 1/3 that they said last time. So obviously it's been around in Florida longer now, and this quarter is when it introduced at Disneyland as well, right? So that curiosity might have also helped it. But I mean, that's kind of not only huge for them from a revenue standpoint, but that's probably higher than we were expecting. I have to wonder how that impacts the operations, because I think the hope was that people wouldn't use it as much, and so that it take away some of those issues that
when they give a range of 30 to 50% in the quarter, with 50% being at the end, which would have been the holiday period. So the busier it is, the more people buy it, which is probably not the best thing in terms of guest experience, because the more people that have it, the more people will clog the lightning lane, so to speak, and then kind of make it less of a value. But you're also going at a time, I don't typically go to the parks during the busy season, but I'm curious to see how it felt when the capacity was limited. I mean, it still looked busy, if you look at wait times, but, we're in a new world. It's hard to compare because we don't know what Lightning Lane or Genie Plus or whatever, did to impact wait times. We've gone through sort of different iterations of, for so long we looked at things and, we just like, okay, it looks like about 50 minutes. It's about this busy. Then FastPass kind of put a wrinkle into it, but we got used to that. And then, we've had so many different changes with this distancing rules that kind of impacted capacity for unevenly amongst attractions. And now Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. I still think as fans, we're not quite as on top of it, just because, we're still kind of learning how the impact is.
I did like the question at the end where basically it boiled down to, you have all these dreams about all these different technologies, but your current technology kind of sucks. Like, how do you plan on fixing that? I think it's a good point, because like, how many times have we? I mean, I can't on the number. Every time I go to the Walt Disney World site, I usually 99% of the time I encounter a Stitch, someone ate the page, or Ralph, something's broken, and Shop Disney has a million issues. And yeah, that is a concern. Like if they're going to be, this was in relation to talking about like the metaverse and other things like that.
Yeah, so I don't remember at Disneyland what they did, but they did pause in.
There was still, so what they did at Disney World was it was just one, the top attraction at each park was individual Lightning Lane, and the second tier ones got folded into Genie Plus. So your like Runaway Railway and
Frozen,
and yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and it's. I wonder if that impacted the demand, or did that raise it to the 50%, or is the 50% just because it was busy and people wanted, to maximize time? You also have a different guest mix at the holidays than you do, at the, other times of the year. It's a different kind of crowd, not in any, so they might be more willing to shell out the extra bucks just to do it. Yeah. But basically, see what the long-term solution is on that, and where they go from here. I mean, we can talk about, Bob Chapek was on CNBC, and they asked him about the metaverse, and he used all these like big words and said nothing. And so it'll be interesting to see where they expect the theme park business to go in the future. I think you got to be careful, because a lot of times they try new things and it just ends up like, oh, what you should do? Build good rides. And sometimes you can get distracted by, there was a time when they wanted everything to have like an app component. And I mean, not talking like Play Disney, but like, the Buzz Lightyear game and everything. And, and in the end it was like, oh, or we could just, build a good ride. Like, and there's definitely been changes in the industry. Obviously the immersive world thing has become very on vogue, which is cool. It builds new and immersive places, and, gives you some instant placemaking, but it'll be interesting to see where they go. And we were so excited. I was thinking, it's been just over a year since we had that last investor day, and that was all about Disney Plus. And it's like almost we need either like an expo or something, once we get through COVID, which just seems like, the business is pretty much recovered. Where are we going next? Like, what's the big thing? Like, where are we headed here? And
sounds like sports betting.
Well, yeah.
They should incorporate that into the park. Maybe you could like bet on which car will win at Radiator Springs Racers. It could kind of be like roulette. You could either bet, the left track or right track, or color of car, or, inside and outside bets.
We talked about this earlier about the elasticity of the Disney brand. They talked about how, they found that general entertainment is going to be a real driving category. So on the TV side, so you have the studios TV shows, the shows tied to the Star Wars and Marvel universes. Put that aside. But you have the Disney branded television, which is stuff, like Doogie Kameāliʻa, the Proud Family, stuff that it has the Disney name on it. And then you have general entertainment content, which usually had been Hulu and ABC, but it seems like they're moving more of that general entertainment to Disney Plus, as you can see today with Blackish and Grownish. And Blackish is, on ABC, but Grownish has some pretty adult themes in it. And, they're talking about how, people expect, people are okay with that being on a Disney branded service. I mean, you still obviously have the parent filtration things and everything, but since over 50% of Disney Plus households don't have children, it really begs the question. It's like, what's the point of Hulu? But as they want everything to be interconnected in this massive Disney multiverse, it's pretty clear that we're going to get to the Disney bundle being the default, the Disney bundle being the thing, maybe once the NBC is sort of out of the equation.
Yeah, and I think that's still, something to consider. And, we got Hulu news today as far as they're going to make more Futurama for Hulu. So I think that's pretty cool. I also wonder, if as Disney Plus expands, whether the stigma around it, because I wonder, like, I think it's fine for The Simpsons to be on Disney Plus. Like, I think that's just kind of funny to them because they've made fun of Disney for so long. But I wonder, like, if they approached the cast of Futurama and said we're making a reboot for Disney Plus versus a reboot for Hulu, whether that, and you could be cynical and be like, well, it's just a paycheck. What do they care? But I do wonder if there's more prestige to Hulu still that maybe they might not want to lose until it gets to a place where it's evolved more.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. I don't know that. I'm curious to. It's hard for me to say because I'm in the Disney brand all the time. But you have stuff like, internationally with the Star Tile, all that stuff that's critically acclaimed, all that FX stuff, that's all on Disney Plus. And I think Mandalorian really helped change that by making Mandalorian, by making WandaVision, by making the stuff that Disney has, that franchise stuff, but making it actually good. Definitely helped that it wasn't just sort of like it wasn't a DVD, direct to DVD kind of thing. Rebecca has a question, and I'm not quite sure if this is what she's talking about, but you could basically hear Bob Chapek going through all the mental gymnastics, not to say Squid Games. Snowdrop from South Korea premiered today on Disney Plus. You can read our review, and you can tell. I think there was this idea that they're going to make local stuff for local markets, and it'll just sort of pop up on Disney. Maybe kind of fall under the radar on Disney Plus or exist there. There were some things that they did for other markets that would appear on Disney Plus, and they wouldn't even announce it. Right? It would just show.
There's a lot of stuff in France.
Yeah, and I think Squid Games kind of showed, okay, maybe Americans could enjoy something that's not made in their own language, so we might as well put on Disney Plus as well, and kind of hope that one of those will just hit like Squid Games did. I don't know that it's as easy as that sounds, but it does make sense. Like, it doesn't cost them anything to, if they structure.
I think there's a pretty dedicated group of people that will. I don't know how many of them aren't already Disney subscribers, but I do think that Snowdrop has the potential to do pretty well, but I don't think it's going to be a big hit across all quadrants like Squid Game one.
No, but you never, there's a lot of garbage on Netflix, like a lot. And so some of it's a volume game. Just put it on there and see what hits. I'm sure someday there, in the next 20 years, Disney Plus will air some weird, I shouldn't say weird, some thing that we would not consider as, a marquee title that will just go viral and, find a new life on Disney Plus. Which we saw sort of like how Freeform created the Hocus Pocus phenomenon and Disney Channel, the Goofy movie. These are things that are not necessarily going to hit right away or not necessarily looked at as like a Mandalorian kind of big swing, but could, enter the zeitgeist just because you can't predict that stuff. If they could, everyone would have a hit. But
the most anticipated sequel, Hocus Pocus, at least according to the Chapek household.
Which I gotta say, it was so nice to make him sound like a human, like he actually looked. And part of the problem with these guys is you hear them on investor calls and they have to, they're speaking investor language to investor people. They're using terminology that you wouldn't use in a guest facing or PR facing world. It's just, there's just a different vocabulary. And so it's nice to make it sound like, oh no, I really like this. Like we're excited about this. And
it sounded slightly less robotic this call.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that they did pick up is there's been huge turnover at sort of what I call the support things, like general counsel, communications, stuff like that. But all the creative executives, presumably like a Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige.
I was assured Kathleen Kennedy was on her way out for the past every week.
Yeah, she's not, apparently.
Weird.
Yeah.
You mean, I don't know, Grace? What?
Maybe we should put that as our headline. Kathy Kennedy's not going anywhere. So there's going to be a consistency in that creative effort. And I think for the most part, we have been pleased with. Obviously, Encanto has been a huge hit. Pete Docter is maybe the most lovable guy at Disney. Kevin Feige is obviously doing what he's doing. So Sean Bailey just gets to mine the library and do his thing. So I wouldn't expect like big, bold new changes in that regard.
It sounded magical.
Yeah, what is that? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to think. Anything else pop out to you?
That was the most of it. The Obi-Wan and Genie and yeah, lots of revenue. Hopefully stock keeps going up because I have a few shares. And we got the shareholder meeting next month, right?
Yeah, March 9th, I believe.
Oh, that's why I'm coming back on. Haha, just got that.
What's interesting is last time it was very bland. It was done almost like contractually. It was virtual, as this year will be. So it'll be interesting to see if this year it's just sort of the go through the motions, last half an hour and do it, or if, now that there's a little bit more planning around it, that they do something a little bit more State of the Union-y. Because September is just there's so much change. We're out the sort of the worst of this pandemic at this point. It just feels like we need a.
Do you have wood near you? You want to turn around and.
What's that?
Said it was the worst of the pandemic so far. Did you want to knock on that wood behind you?
Oh. They just in my inbox right now, Game Loft has announced a new racing game called Disney Speedstorm. So there's a lot to be excited about. But and it'll be interesting. I mean, we talked earlier. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the NFL this weekend. In terms of what they feel they should be. What is their top stuff, right? If you're going to spend $7 million on a 30-second ad, what do they choose to put that energy behind? Also, this is like I saw someone on Twitter called like the second worst kept secret in entertainment. I'm not quite sure what the first one was, but that ESPN is bidding on the NFL Sunday ticket, which I think would be huge for them. They're competing with folks like Amazon and stuff, but it would just be that sort of game-changing thing that would make ESPN Plus not fringe. I mean, it's every passing day, it's less fringe than it was the day before, but like then that it's in the same way it kind of put DirecTV on the map back in the day, 47 years ago, whatever.
But again, I wish ESPN Plus would work better. So
yeah, well, and I think that kind of goes to Jason, who's our a friend of LP's question.
I was there. We met him together.
Why don't you guys make better apps?
You acquired the company that made this, and it's the worst one.
Right. I do want to say too, this is not as big news, but it was news that broke during the call, so we should address it. The Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli. I don't know. Have you seen their Turning Red promo that's been airing like every 4 seconds on ESPN?
No, I've only seen him talk about Emily in Paris.
Oh, yeah. So they have like who's your rookie of the year? It's like, oh, it's Mei Lee from Turning Red. So Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli, which is being extended to the 2024 season for 10 games. So that's 10 out of 18 weeks, I guess. So 10 out of 18. They're also going to have, with different hosts, UFC do alternate broadcasts for UFC, college football, and golf. They are ESPN separately from this has announced that they're going to do an alternate Major League Baseball broadcast for their Sunday Night Football franchise. So it will be interesting to see. I guess that's been sort of I don't know that it's drawing it's not drawing like Monday Night Football with Steve Levy numbers, but it is a great way to get folks to check out something. It's Twitter friendly, and the Mannings are just lovable.
And they're gonna do the other. So what do you think? It's probably just all the same people that did like Peyton's Places. Will have like they said a UFC one, so this is going to get Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I don't. It's a good question. I wouldn't be surprised. This person is asking why Tron Legacy was removed, citing due to contracts. Yeah, so it's not that someone broke the contract. What they do is they get different windows that they can show a movie. So Tron Legacy is under pre-existing deal. to probably with Netflix. I don't know specifically.
It's there now, so whatever
so
it was.
What happens is they get it, they'll get it for 2 months, and it goes away for 2 months, and it comes and goes and comes and goes. And then eventually those contracts will wind down, and then it'll be all Disney Plus constantly. But these things pre-existed Disney Plus before Disney Plus was even a thought. So there are some things. And then as Disney acquired like 21st Century Fox, they have different deals with like HBO, I believe is who it was with, that was similar kind of thing. So things may come and go, like Sandlot just keeps coming and going. It's not, the windowing used to be a much bigger deal where you're like, okay, you get it during this period, goes away, you get it during this period, and then it goes to different places. And they would sell different windows of a show or movie. And so that's what happens is it might come and go for another year or two. And then, once that contract winds down, not sure when it would be, it will pop up on Disney Plus. In fact, Disney actually has Sony's second window. So what's going to happen is the Sony films that are released, I think starting this year, will be on Netflix first. And then once they go through their Netflix window, then they'll come up on Disney Plus as a library title. So that's a way that eventually the Spider-Man films will become, even though they're not made by Disney, will be on Disney Plus, kind of rounding out that Marvel tile. Hope that answers your question. Anyway, can they get Spider-Man? So yeah, as I just mentioned, so they can't get the rights to Spider-Man. That's going to be a little difficult. But they did sign a deal with Sony last year to have it be on the service once they've gone through their initial run. I don't know when they're going to roll that out or when it takes effect, but they did sign an agreement with Sony to be the sort of Netflix type home of Sony, which it actually stemmed out of FX deal. FX had the television rights for Sony's library. So now they kind of expanded that to include Disney Plus. Once again, not the first window. So, Spider-Man No Way Home or Morbius or whatever would be on Netflix first. But then once it goes to that initial window, it will pop up on Disney Plus. And okay, well, I'm going to be back with Mac in about 3 hours to talk Marvel. And
my wife might pop up apparently.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah. I got to watch The Making of Hawkeye. I still haven't watched Book of Boba Fett.
I was about to go watch that right now.
Well, enjoy that. Let me know how it is.
The Hawkeye one. I already saw Boba Fett this morning.
Oh, how was Boba Fett? It was good.
It's pretty good.
Cool.
I'll be talking about that with Mike tomorrow.
Yeah. You got a big day tomorrow. You got that stream, and then you got
movie and then Drafting Place on Friday.
Yeah. You're the new face of LP. And what a face. Anyway, see everybody in a couple hours.
Bye.